What's good, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the channel. I'm LotusAsakura, the one never knows best, and your boy is officially finally back from Evo. Now, I've been back for a couple of days now. You guys got a Lost Files video for Dragon Ball FighterZ yesterday, but as you can see from the title of today's video, I want to talk to you guys about some honest thoughts on Dragon Ball FighterZ. Now, as I just mentioned, I just came back from Evo, and I did in fact play DBFZ out at Evo. I made it out of pools. I won one more game, and then I lost. So it is what it is. I think I ended up placing like in the top 100, like 97th place or something like that out of 800, 900-ish people. Not great, but not terrible. Not bad for somebody who hasn't played the game since Combo Breaker, but much like myself, I'm willing to bet that a lot of you aren't playing the game as much lately, or at least haven't in a while. Also, since I've been back from Evo, I've actually been feeling a little bit under the weather, so I apologize for my voice. I took a test, it's not COVID, so there's that. Just a bit of a sore throat and a cough and whatever, but I'm cool. I'm feeling better than I was a couple of days ago, and yeah, the grind must continue. But a couple of days ago, I actually put out a tweet, and I want to go through a lot of the replies of that tweet with you guys. And in that tweet, I said, give me your honest thoughts on the current state of Dragon Ball FighterZ. Let's actually zoom in a little bit here. But as you can see, we got a decent amount of quotes and a lot of responses, And yeah, I just kind of want to talk with you guys about some of those responses and some of my own thoughts and opinions on Dragon Ball FighterZ, and just kind of discuss, what's going on with the game and what's not going on with the game. So without wasting any time, let's just jump right into the first couple of replies that we have here. And the first one comes from Tatsunoko, which says, meter nerf was such an atrocious change, and I don't even play any of the affected characters. It feels like unnecessary and lazy pandering. And this was honestly kind of a popular opinion, I would say, when they made it. Now, if you don't know what he's referring to, he's talking about the meter nerf change to Gogeta, Lab Coat, Janemba, Hit, those characters who all got that meter nerf. And I will definitely say that the meter nerf does feel like you feel it, right? But it hasn't really deterred too many people from playing those teams. Case in point, we saw that grand finals of Evo for Dragon Ball FighterZ was actually a mirror match of Blue Gogeta, Vegito, and Android 17. So even though at first I didn't really have a strong opinion one way or the other, I was like, well, it should still be effective, because now you at least won't see people playing Vegito, Gogeta, and Labco. And you didn't, for what that's worth. We didn't see people playing all three, but the Hit players are still playing Hit. The Janemba players are still playing Janemba, which you do want, right? You didn't want to nerf these characters so bad that they don't exist, that they aren't played at all. But a lot of people do feel like it was kind of lazy, and I would agree it was kind of lazy. And you still saw some Lab Coat, maybe not as much as you normally would. And actually, I myself did not play Lab Coat at Evo, not because of the meter nerf necessarily, but because when I was warming up and playing in casuals, I wasn't really sure what team to play, and I actually asked Twitter what team I should play, and they voted for me to play base Vegeta, so I did. And then I was trying out Lab Coat anyway, just to see if like maybe I'd be trolling by not picking her, even though I think she's the better character. The Vegeta just actually felt better that day, so that's why I ended up playing. But that's neither here nor there. But yeah, and actually let me check out a couple of replies to Tatsu and see what people are saying. You see, I actually bookmarked this one because I wanted to be one that I came back to, but it ended up being the first reply that shows up anyway. And this person says, I play a meter nerf character, and I think it's actually very base and an interesting way to disincentivize players to stack certain characters. I think other changes should have still happened. Nerf to Vegito A and 17A, but that's about it. Honestly, it fits right with the total absence of nuanced changes. Absolute L take. So I'm surprised to see that the people who are vocal in replying to Tatsu are people who basically disagree with him, because I felt like the popular opinion was that it was a bad change. I was kind of neutral or indifferent. I'm now personally leaning toward the idea that it wasn't a good change, but that's just me. But what do you guys think? Moving on, I believe we also saw a reply from Wrath that says, I dislike the direction the game has gone, and I've completely lost faith in it having good support from the devs. I feel you, brother, I feel you. But I still like a lot of the things in DBFZ more than other games. Movement feels more buttery than any other fighter, for example. And strong agree. I mean, you can see I replied, big agree on this one. I strongly agree with this one. Dragon Ball FighterZ was at one point not only my favorite fighting game of all time, but my favorite video game of all time. What this game did for me, my life, my channel, and everything, like everything you see behind me, this channel, everything in this room, this is all possible thanks to Dragon Ball FighterZ, and I will never forget that, and I will always cherish the game for that, right? But it's not nearly as fun or enjoyable for me now as it was years ago. Those first 2-3 years of DBFZ, I loved it, man. For better or worse, even through all the ups and downs and the Bardoks and the Brolys and the Android 16 and Gohan and Gotenks and Kid Buu and Cell and just like everything that we went through, GT Goku, Snap Meta, all of it, man. It was a special time. That being said, you know what's funny? I was just talking about this with, I believe, Nitro or Inzum, or maybe both of them the other day. I think, no, it was Inzum. I want to say it was Inzum. I remember being back into Kill Stage's stream and like season 1, like late season 1 or maybe early season 2 of the game, and people were talking about the neutral in Dragon Ball FighterZ and how they didn't like it, whatever. And I remember typing in this chat that playing neutral in Dragon Ball FighterZ is actually my favorite in any fighting game. And we were having this conversation, I think, because of Super Dash, and I don't think it was Sage saying that like, oh, the neutral DBFZ sucks with the Super Dash, but that was a popular opinion among a lot of people, particularly in the Twitch chat or YouTube comments or on Twitter at the time. And I get that, because, you know, Super Dash is a full screen tracking homing dash, whatever, right? That basically is a skip neutral tool, which we have a lot of skip neutral things in DBFZ now, but that's neither here nor there. But the movement in DBFZ feels so good. The air dashes are so quick and so low to the ground. Everything is so fluid and smooth and buttery. The jumping, the super jumps, the super jump floats. Movement in Dragon Ball FighterZ, I don't care, feels better than any other fighting game. And that's my opinion, and I will stand on that 10 toes down, because I truly believe that. Even with Super Dash and everything, like, everything just feels so good. And that's just me. Y'all can feel free to agree or disagree, but no matter what I might think about the game, the movement is still great. I still love the movement. I'd be lying though if I said I wasn't in the camp of people who've basically completely lost faith at this point. Bandai, I don't know if you're listening. I don't know if y'all tapped into my channel, but y'all go, I don't know. Moving on, we have a Shallow Persona who says, hard to enjoy the game in its current state it's in, even without fusions and lab coat being as strong as this is some of the mashiest level of play I've experienced in Dragon Ball. There's also all the promises of rollback, but with it taking so long, I've become fed up of waiting. And again, this seems to be a very common opinion at this point. Now, I've preached patience for so long, but again, even my own patience has worn thin at this point, and it's difficult. Now, I want to be as understanding as possible and acknowledge the fact that, for one, retroactively implementing rollback into a video game that was not originally designed for is both an expensive and time-consuming process, and two, they probably had only just started the development of this when they announced it a year ago at EVO. But they announced it at the last EVO, and here we are a year later with another EVO that's come and gone, and there was no announcement at EVO. They've said that there's going to be a second patch, but we don't know what that patch is going to entail. But odds are, considering the direction that they've taken the game in with the last several patches, it's not going to be in a direction that we pretty much like. And we're supposed to have gotten a beta for DBFZ, but that got delayed and we never got a release date or whatever. And yeah, so basically here we are a year later. We haven't so much as sniffed that rollback, and frankly, like, the wait is one thing, but also I'm of the opinion that their communication about things has been pretty poor, and they've left us in the dark for a lot of times. And there's been just long periods of radio silence where we're just basically looking around like Will Smith when he came back to the crib of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and everything. He's just like, you know what I'm saying? This is empty. Like, you know what I'm saying? And I definitely agree with this being the mashiest level of play. And this is another conversation I was having with Inzim right now, where I feel like even at the highest level of Dragon Ball fighters, obviously those players are world class. They're incredibly good fighting game players. They're incredibly good DBFZ players. But I feel like just the refinement and the finesse and like the overall skill level, excuse me, so still a little under the weather, it's not quite what it was in years past. Obviously, the game has evolved a lot more, and if you took like a player now and like threw them into like season 1 or 2 of the game, yeah, they'd probably be the best just because things have developed and evolved so much more, assuming that they're able to obviously properly adapt and jump into that version of the game. But like, I just feel like for what the game was like in, you know, season 1, season 2, especially season 2, like everything was much more down to a science and a lot more refined, and there was a lot more skill, I want to say, than what the game currently is. And again, I'm not trying to take away from players like Hikari, Nitro, Inzim, Wawa, anyone like that, right? I'm not saying that. I hope that's not how this is coming across, but I'm just saying that like the level of refinement and the level of finesse just felt like it was higher back then than it is now, where things are a lot more scrambly, mashy, a bit more random. And that's not the fault of the players. I feel like that's the fault of the game. You know what I'm saying? That's what the game wants you to do at this point. That's what the game is at this point. And I'm not a fan of it. And I've been very vocal of that. Y'all are all well aware of that. I actually want to take a look at some of the quote tweets that we have, and here's one from Big Chap Alien that says, an example of a great game held back by the company behind it. This video isn't here to bash Bandai, but Bandai, I hope you're listening, because this is how people are thinking and feeling on you guys and the game right now. One from Shaw, DBFZ players like it, and people who don't want DBFZ to be DBFZ anymore hate it. I gotta strongly disagree with this one. I wonder what his replies say, because I think the majority of players don't like it, and I want to love Dragon Ball FighterZ with all my heart, but I think what Dragon Ball FighterZ is not the game that I originally fell in love with. And I think most people who are still around from season 1, which isn't many of us at this point, feel the same way. And the biggest reason why I think most people from season 1 aren't around anymore is because the game isn't what it once was. It's not as fun. It's not as precise. The online obviously hasn't improved in the 5 years since it's been out and everything of the sort. So I'm very curious to see what his replies are looking like, because I don't think, I'd be surprised if people agree. Yeah, he's disagreeing. I enjoy the 2-touch factor, quick thinking, diagonal, nothing that makes, that's whatever. Like, combos are combos. I think DBFZ is fine. Fusion nerfs were lazy. Has he got any quotes on this? I've always loved DBFZ no matter what season or patch he's been through. Game is still visually stunning, sure. Roster's cool and unique, sure. Core gameplay is still fun. People who hate it just suck. this is entirely not true at all, because even though like I'm not trying to like put people on blast or whatever, right? But like Inzim, Nitro, Pred, 3 of the best players in the country, right? You would say that if you just throw in Hikari, right? Those are the 4 best players in the country right now. I don't know how Hikari personally feels about the game because I don't converse with him very often. I did actually speak with him at Evo after his big win. But Pred, Nitro, and Inzim, especially Inzim, from what I've talked about with him, because I talk with Inzim a lot, do not fuck with the game right now. They don't like it. They don't think it's anywhere near as fun as it was. That's even coming from Inzim, who only even started playing the game in season 3, and he still is very unhappy with the state of it, right? But Nitro and Pred, they've been around since season 1, and I've been playing with those guys since then. And like I said, those are the 3 best players in the country plus Hikari, right? That makes 4. They don't like the game. So saying people who hate it just suck is entirely just completely false and untrue. Now, as you go through these quotes, there are definitely still some people who are a bit more optimistic or still enjoy the game for sure. I think even the first reply says this is still the greatest fighting game of all time. I don't know why it just refreshed like that. But you have other people who are like, it's time to move on. You know what I'm saying? Like, meter gain nerf didn't truly fix as expected since Team Yasha won another major, and it was a mirror match at that. That being said, though, 6 out of the 8 main games at Evo were mirror matches, so in grand finals, so it is what it is. The only games that weren't were Street Fighter and Guilty Gear, right? Guilty Gear Strive, right? But yeah, I would say the overwhelming opinion by the majority of the player base, and you know, granted, a lot of these people might be people who didn't like or play the game or have stopped a long time ago, but it's negative. Like, it's overwhelmingly negative. Like, not touching that game anytime soon, boring, repetitive. Totally understand why one wouldn't like it and why someone would, as the game is doubled down on its already chaotic nature. I've long since given up. You know, the thing is, it feels as though, and this has been an opinion that I've seen a lot on Twitter, it feels as though the developers over at Bandai or Arxis or whoever's really in charge, and a lot of the games being a lot of the blame is being given to Bandai Namco, right? I don't really know who to point the finger at. That's not really what I'm most concerned about, but it feels like whoever has the say in these things isn't paying attention to us, isn't listening to us. And that's my honest thought, because I feel like the community has been very, very vocal about what we do and don't like about the game. And they keep doubling down harder and harder and harder about the things that we don't like in the game. We've talked about how we don't like the risk reward, the full screen EX moves that beat key blasting, give you medium scale combos and everything like this. And they just keep adding more full screen moves, like higher damage, just more skip neutral things, making the game mashier, more scrambly. Obviously, after being vocal about it for 4 years, we finally got rollback, or we finally got them to decide that they want to implement it, but we still haven't actually gotten that implementation. And like, you want to give all the credit and be as grateful as you can for the fact that they are going to add rollback, but it's like, we've seen so many other games do it. How many other games have gotten rollback or got new versions with rollback, or new games just that had rollback from the start have released since they announced it for Dragon Ball FighterZ? You know what I'm saying? It's just, it's kind of hard to continue to be patient and to be grateful in that situation. And frankly, it kind of feels like Dragon Ball FighterZ and the Dragon Ball FighterZ community has kind of been either one, has been a laughing stock in the FGC lately, or 2, everyone just feels really bad for us because it just feels like we're constantly being disrespected. And you know, I made that whole video, that sit down I had with Majin Obama before, about, you know, being grateful about all the support that we've gotten and everything that the game has given us. But again, that was already like what feels like a year ago itself, and it's only getting harder every single day. I think the game's in a good spot, but some of the casts are still outdated and there needs to be some repurposing on Reflect. That's an interesting opinion. I haven't heard anyone saying that Reflect needs to be changed. But some characters definitely do still feel really outdated, I would say. Trunks still being one of them. Yeah, this guy's just saying the game is dead. There's actually a surprising amount of replies here from people who speak other languages that I'm not familiar with. So yeah, okay, here we made it back to where I was before. Yeah, it definitely feels like this, like the game's on its last legs. Because the thing is, it's not even a matter of like, oh, we're not getting any more DLC, which would we all want, we would love that, right? But it's not even just a matter of like, oh, no more DLC, no more season updates. It's just like, they took the game in a direction that the majority of people have been vocal about not liking, and then they went harder and harder in that direction with it, despite us saying we don't like that. Coupled with the fact that rollback is still nowhere in sight, it's just like, damn, it's kind of hard, you know. It's just hard. It's just hard. It's good if you play competitively. It sucks if you only play online because no rollback. I think the competitive players would say that it sucks competitively and it's more fun casually. So it's funny because like it's all about perspective, and from the outside looking in, the others probably think that it's more fun for the other group. Announcing rollback and not having even a beta after years is baffling. Like I said, like how many other games have we seen do it before? It's just like the patience is patience has worn so thin. Everyone's waiting on Tenkaichi 4. I mean, as far as like Dragon Ball games go, sure, but as far as like replacing DBFZ as a fighting game, no, not exactly. It could be better, but I do still genuinely enjoy it. Genuinely an amazing game held back so much by a company that doesn't listen nor care. Yeah, I recognize Soul Song. I've played against Soul Song a decent amount. Really funny seeing two very different responses on most of the replies. It's either game sucks, no rollback, let it die, or this is the best game ever has been. I will say, like, yeah, you do see those two extremes, although I would say based off going through the replies, it feels like it's mostly negative, but the people who are positive, they do tend to think that. But I was in that group. For years, I thought Dragon Ball FighterZ was the greatest fighting game ever made. It just hasn't been that way for the last 2 of those years, I would say. Yeah, looking back at the tweet, there are hundreds of replies. I mean, I could be here for an hour or two going through all the different replies that we have from people. But people aren't a fan, man. And I'm very curious to know how you guys are feeling in the comment section down below. Obviously, the majority of my following has been built up off of Dragon Ball FighterZ, but I haven't really been playing or posting the game much at all lately. And at most, you guys have been getting like lost files and stuff like that. Because, I mean, admittedly, prior to going to Evo, I hadn't played the game since like Combo Breaker, right? Which was back like at the end of May. So, I just... You know, are you guys still playing the game? Are you still hoping for content on the game? Are you still looking forward to DLC, rollback, or anything like that? As far as I'm concerned, like, I'm not saying I'm not going to play the game anymore, because obviously when the patch comes out and if and when rollback does come out, like, I'm going to try it out. I'm going to explore. I'm going to look around or whatever, right? But it just is what it is, man. I want to love the game, but the game doesn't feel like it loves me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want with all my heart to love this game because I used to call it my favorite video game of all time. Like, the game literally changed my life. I thought it was the greatest fighting game ever made. And as much as I love the game, I don't feel the love back. Not from you guys. I definitely feel the love from you guys. I greatly appreciate all the support over the years and everything. This sounds like a farewell. It's not a farewell, but you know what I'm saying? I appreciate everything y'all have done for me. But the game and the devs, you know what I'm saying? It's not looking good, man. It's not looking good. It's not looking good. But that's that. I just thought this would be an interesting video. But like I said, I want to hear you guys' thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. So feel free to leave them. I'll definitely be down there replying and talking with you guys. I didn't reply to a lot of these because it was so many, and I was saving it, you know, my reactions and reading it to the video. But I'll be down there to talk with you guys. So let me know. Let me know your thoughts, comments, questions, concerns, opinions in the comment section down below. Hit this video with a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you haven't already, so you can stay tuned for all this content that I'll bring you. With all that being said, spiritual off today. Remember, nothing can happen to you, swing the bat.